These are the major 7th type chords with a raised 11th on the 1, 3, 5, 6 string family, and these will be on the root of A. So the basic starting point is a root from low to high, a root, a 5th, a 3rd, and a 7th. The inversions are a little bit problematic because then you have these big stretches because you have a C sharp, a G sharp, an E, and a C. So they're a little bit tough to do in a straight inversion format. Somewhat possible in some areas, others not so much. So we'll start from A. So again, our A, E, C sharp, and G sharp. And of course the top can go down to F sharp to give a 6th. Can go up to the 9th, up to B. Also going back, we release C sharp, and we have that goes to B. So A, E, B, and G sharp, like an E chord over an A. Now we can also lower the E to E flat, which is A, E flat, C sharp, and G sharp, and take the top voice down to F sharp for that. Same thing with the 9th. So we have A, E flat, C sharp, and B. We're going down even further, so now we can bring the C sharp note in on the A string. So E flat will become C sharp. So we can have A, C sharp, B, and G sharp. Top voice moves to F sharp. Also, moving back to the D sharp on the A string, we have A, D sharp, B, and F sharp, which again sounds like a B triad over an A. Gives it that sort of a sound. So that's covers this direction. A, C sharp, B, and F sharp as well. Gives you a similar type of profile for the voicing. So moving in the opposite direction now with the C sharp. So from there, the A, C sharp, B, and G sharp, we can bring the B up to D sharp. And then, of course, we can move the top voice up too. So we have A, C sharp, D sharp, and B. And it's kind of like 6th on the top. It's like a movable 6 from B and G sharp moves up to D sharp and B. Okay, now we can take that C sharp back up to E or D sharp. A, D sharp, E, and B, and move the top voice up to C sharp as well, bringing it back down to E, so A, E, D sharp, and B, and the top voice moving to C sharp. And these are all just in this one area. We can see that there are a lot of voicings for just an A chord. So going back to the A, E, D sharp, and B, moving to C sharp, the E can now move to F sharp. And that's a nice sound. A, F sharp, D sharp, and C sharp. Also, A, F sharp, D sharp, and B. And we can bar A, F sharp, E, and C sharp. And the same thing for the high B. A, F sharp, E, and B. Okay, moving ahead, I mean, we can even start to look at planed voicings. For instance, this is a B, F sharp, E, and C sharp. And we can move the top voice to D sharp. And we can move that up, C sharp, G sharp, F sharp, and D sharp. And move that to E. And again, has an A sound. Now that can be moved up as well. Move that up to E because it was on B, and we can move up a 5th on these. So that would be E, B, A, and F sharp, moving to G sharp, and then F sharp, B, C sharp, B, and G sharp moving up to A. So those have a similar profile. Moving back, C sharp, E, D sharp, and B, which sounds like a C sharp minor 9 chord voice exchange, B, E, D sharp, and C sharp. And again, that would apply there, up a fifth. E, A, G sharp, and F sharp. The E's and the F sharps swap. F sharp, A, G sharp, and E. So now we have a voice exchange on an F sharp minor sound. We can hear the whole thing in context. Sounds good. Has a really good sound. Now, moving ahead for the C sharp. C sharp A, F sharp, and D sharp. Top voice moving to E. C sharp A, F sharp, and E. F sharp moving to E itself. C sharp A, E, D sharp, and maybe moving the top voice up to F sharp as well. That's a nice move. And then back to a C sharp minor sound. So like this, C sharp, G sharp, E, and B. Also, so this is E, A, F sharp, and C sharp. Top voice moving to B. Again, coupling with that. Very nice sound. C sharp, A, G sharp, and E. Top voice moving to F sharp. Kind of melts in with all of this. Really nice. Okay. Now, also, this is an A chord over an E flat. E flat, A, E, C sharp. And maybe even the top voice on that could move to F sharp to give that sound. Moving ahead, E flat, A flat, A, and E. So almost as though there's an A flat chord with a fifth and then an A on top. Move the top voice to F sharp. Now, we can swap out. So instead of E flat, A flat, we can make that E, A, and then A flat, E flat on top. That's like a A major with a raised 11th. Now we can also bring the top voice to F sharp. Okay, that gives you a sort of a Chick Corea sound. So that gives you the traditional sharp 11 sound. This can move E and A, F sharp, and D sharp. Okay, and of course the voices can swap. So E goes to E flat, and E flat goes to E, vice versa. So we have a sort of a voice exchange there. Moving ahead, we already did E, A, G sharp, and F sharp. We can now do this with the E in the bass, E, C sharp, A, G sharp, or maybe F sharp up top. That's a nice sound. It kind of planes well to these that sort of sound. So we have that. So this now also closed voicing. We have G sharp, A, B, and E. And since this is on G sharp, if we do it on D sharp, we have a similar result. So we have D sharp, E, F sharp, and B, and the same thing, G sharp, A, B, and E. Same type of voicing that swaps out. Embellishes that very nicely. Again, getting back to E, B, A, and F sharp, going to G sharp, we have this F sharp minor sound coming in. Now we can, from this F sharp, C sharp, B, and A, or G sharp, we can make that sort of a minor 9, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and A, swap the voices, and we can do this on C sharp too, which will give us sort of a major sound in a way. This would be C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, and E, and then swap them so that minor 9 becomes a major 7. Same here. So we have, and that descends nicely. Can be very melodic with the chords, and we have them really nice sounds. A lot of melodic possibilities. Now on the G sharp itself, that's a nice voicing. G sharp, C sharp, A, and E. So now we have the 7th and the bass. And of course we can move this in the 5th motion, D sharp, G sharp, E, and B. And that works very well. So there it is. G sharp, C sharp, B, and E. Now moving ahead, we have G sharp, C sharp, B, and A, which is a voice exchange on this voicing. We can also put the 5th, which is nice. G sharp, A, B, and A, voice exchange of one of our earliest voicings. And it works exactly the same way. It's almost an exchange of this voicing, the C sharp, A, E, and D sharp. So it almost has that same profile to it. Also, we overlooked this. I overlooked this one. Very simple. A, F sharp, B, and A, F sharp, D sharp, and B. Simple B chord over an A, and then moving that up to C sharp. A, F sharp, D sharp, and C sharp. And so many of these chords can be planed, and even just the physical ones that go in this direction, they're a little more unusual, but they work okay. F sharp, B, A, and G sharp. And this would, of course, be the same as this. So we voice exchange for this, G sharp, B, A, and F sharp. Move it down a 5th, C sharp, F sharp, E, and D sharp. So the C sharp and the D sharp exchange. So those have a very similar profile as this. Nice. Okay, so that gives you some potential and a good introduction to the chords on that string family, which is 1, 3, 5, 6, the major 7th type on the tonic of A.